the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, October 8th. So we have the moon in Leo energy. This is definitely giving us a little bit of a shift in our mood and our attitude, especially coming out of the last couple of days when the moon was in her rulership in that Cancer energy. We have a pep in our step. There's a little bit of a spark, a fire, a flame being reignited within us. We're definitely more extroverted than we were in this Cancer energy. The Leo energy wants us to stand in our truth, wants us to be heart aligned, wants us to truly express ourselves. We have things to say. We've been harboring a lot of, I'm going to call it unclear secrets, not only to us, but to other people, that we actually have to get off of our chest. We have to get out of our body. And what the interesting dynamic is here today is that Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who's been sitting in this Leo energy since June, is finally clear of her post-retrograde shadow period as she prepares to move into Virgo energy. So it is definitely a rekindling, a realization, a reflection, if you will, on all these heart activations that we've been having since June. And again, we needed Venus in this Leo energy, retrograde in this Leo energy, in order for us to kind of crack the shell, to kind of start removing the bricks that we've built, the big wall that we built around our heart space, thinking that we were doing it to protect ourselves, and now realizing that it's become a little bit more like a prison. We've needed these particular heart activations to get us real and raw and vulnerable with who and what makes us happy, what provides us with a sense of safety and security and stability, and who and what does not. Of course, Venus moving into this Virgo energy, there's a whole astro forecast I'm going to encourage you to go listen to. And of course, if you have your Libra season e-guide handy, you're going to want to flip to this particular part in the workbook, really capture the energy, capture the vibe, capture some thoughts, some feelings going on at this particular time of the shift. We're going to need to look back on this in about a month and a half from now and really gain a lot more perspective from some of the things that we're very unclear about in the here and now. So with that being said, there are 8 different aspects taking place today, and 5 of them are going to involve the moon. The moon in Leo is going to make a positive interaction with the sun, who of course is in Libran energy. We love fire and air energy because it kind of dries us off from the emotional state in which we've been in. It percolates a new level of expression, of communication, of creativity. And of course, it's really just giving us an opportunity to reignite the passion, the desire that has been very stagnant in many of us for a very, very long time. We kind of have to understand, though, that the sun shining a bright light in Libran energy is trying to show us where it is that we kind of have to balance the scales, especially with some of the wants, needs, and desires when it comes to expressing our heart space. We are wanting to balance that out. Again, Libran energy, very good for mediation, for communicating, for negotiating, for compromise, but we have to be wary about the fact that we tend to filter our true, real, raw, authentic thoughts and feelings so that they're a little bit more, I'm going to say, pleasant for the receivers to actually absorb. There's a little bit of falsity that comes with the way in which we're speaking, and this is going to be a little bit of a conflict because, of course, we're real and raw and vulnerable with the moon in Leo energy, and we're kind of waiting in those scales, the back and forth, the ebb and flow of that Libran energy, in order for us to find the sweet spot where we can express ourselves, but we're not being as real and raw and vulnerable as we actually should be. This is a positive interaction, though, so this is going to kind of show us where it is that there's new ideas coming in. We're percolating on new thoughts. We're trying to piece together the right words to fully express ourselves. So at the end of the day, this is definitely going to have us kind of seeing our circumstances, our situation, our current thoughts and feelings from a more real, raw, vulnerable type of lens. The moon in Leo energy, going to make a positive interaction with Uranus, the Great Awakener, who of course is retrograde in Taurus energy, showing us where it is that we're a little bit too stuck in our ways, a little bit too fearful and resistant to the changes that we know that we need to make in our physical realm in order to provide ourselves with a realm of reality that looks good, that feels good, that is a little bit more safe and secure than the reality in which we're kind of moving away from. Now, this is coming with a real strong aha moment. This is an epiphany like no other. Like our mind is going to change, our emotions are going to change, our perspective, perception, our understanding is going to change. It's going to be an aha moment that reverberates into us making some changes that we essentially have been resisting up until now. Again, that moon in Leo gives us a boldness, a bravery, a courage that we've been previously lacking. So all of these fire, flames, this excitement, this passion, this desire, now coming to the surface of our awareness, and we're actually percolating on how it is that we're going to express this energy, manifest it in a way that is going to create the kind of solid changes that we need to see in our physical realm. The moon is then going to sextile with Mercury. Mercury, of course, in Libran energy at this time. So we have another aspect here between our heart and our head where there are fire, flames, and there is air, oxygen. I'm going to give you this little analogy because it seems to be super helpful. If you have too much air and oxygen to a fire, to a flame, that fire and flame is going to get out of control. It's going to get explosive. It's going to be too hot, too big to handle. If there's not enough oxygen to that fire, to that flame and flame is going to go out. So we have to balance the energy, the passion, the creativity, the desire with logic and practicality, with a lot of planning, a lot of strategy. So we have the moon, which typically speaking is our heart space. We have Mercury, which is our head space. This is a sextile, which means this is a good interaction. They're getting on the same page. They're making a lot of progress, if you will, with these new creative ideas, with this want, need, and desire to fully express oneself, to engage in conversation in order to have these heart-to-hearts that we've been very hesitant in having. The moon in Leo energy going to make a very awkward interaction with Neptune. Neptune, of course, is retrograde in his place of power in this Pisces energy. That was a tongue twister. I am very aware. I apologize. But anywho, Neptune being retrograde in this Pisces energy is really kind of showing us where A, we need to kind of renew our soul, our spirit, our faith. B, where it is that we have to remind ourselves of the vision, of the dream, of the goal that we're trying to manifest. And C, we have to be a little bit more aware with some of the things that we're running from, especially where we're avoiding confrontation, where we're avoiding realizing the fears and the doubts and the insecurities that are creeping up in us and really preventing us from aligning with the actions that need to be kind of taken in order for us to get away from where it is that we're at and get us closer to where it is that we desire to be. Now, there can be a little bit of confusion with this. We can feel a little bit extra, a little bit overly dramatic, if you will. We could be hypersensitive and we could be all stuck up in the feels. Now, granted, this isn't the most favorable position that these two could be interacting in, which means that we're likely going to have to wade through the confusion, through the depths of the darkness in order for us to gain clarity, in order for us to kind of remind ourselves what it is that our heart is asking us to pursue. Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, and how it is that we express ourselves in this Libran energy, trying to balance the scales of our thoughts, of our feelings, is going to make a positive interaction with Saturn. Saturn, of course, is the Lord of Karma. He is retrograde in this Pisces energy, helping us to dissolve the old version of self, the old realm in which the old self is created, the old belief system that the old self created, the old reality in. We are bossing up. We're in new levels of karma right now. But what we kind of have going on here is a little bit more of a serious and somber tone to what it is that we need to talk about, what it is that we need to say, what it is that we have to get off of our chest, and where it is that we kind of have to find a helpful and happy medium between expressing ourselves and then, of course, keeping a little bit reserved in order for us to not play our cards all at the same time. Again, we're in Libra season, we're in Libra energy. This is very strategic and calculated in order for us to negotiate, compromise, charm our way to what it is that we actually desire. Normally, if this was a bad interaction, let's say, there would be some restriction, some confusion, some misunderstandings kind of taking place because Saturn kind of pumps the brakes on what it is that we're able to actually truly express. But this is a favorable aspect. So we are gaining a little bit of momentum, especially talking about where it is that we have to kind of boss up, where it is that we have to switch things up, what it is that we need to start talking about as far as building in our lives, reconstructing, redesigning, if you will, and really just realizing where it is that we need to have a change in our narrative, a change in our focus, a change in our understanding, a change in our perception. Now, here's where things get a little bit sticky. Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passions, our desires, even our anger, going to get in the boxing ring and square off with Pluto. Pluto's the great transformer. He is retrograde in this Capricorn energy. Now, Pluto is the higher octave of Mars. Mars is kind of, I'm going to say, more active on this earthly realm. Pluto is kind of the ruler of the underworld. He's the ruler of the shadow part of ourselves. He's the ruler over what we need to destroy in order to have a space to create something new. Now, let me just say that this has been an intensity building, let's say. This has been a little bit of friction building. This is going to add an edginess, a restlessness, if you will, to not only the day, but probably, I'm going to say, the next 4 days, taking us all the way into Pluto going direct, Mars moving into Scorpio energy, having Friday the 13th pop off, bringing some luck to the realm, and then the new moon solar eclipse in Libran energy. It's still going to be activated for the entirety of this week. We've been building up to it for a while. We're going to sit in it in a direct aspect. It's going to take a couple of days to actually kind of dissolve, if you will. So what this is doing is this is really creating a sense of urgency where we need to boss up, where we need to take action, we need to decide. And of course, Mars is still in Libra energy, so there's no decisions to be made as of yet. We are kind of understanding where it is that we have to take control back, power back. We are realizing that we've just kind of been going with the flow and kind of surrendering to all the crappy things happening to us, whether it be in relationships or just, money matters or other circumstances. We've been very frustrated. We haven't felt like we've had any choice, any control. And right now, because again, the god of war and the god of the underworld coming together in the boxing ring, like the WWF match of a lifetime, if you will, this is us trying to gain control or our power back. This is going to create a lot of intense desires. And again, you've often heard me say that sometimes we have to use anger and frustration as the fuel to act as the catalyst for change to happen. This would definitely be one of those particular aspects. This is, I'm going to say, a time where we want to be very cautiously aware of confrontations and conflicts because we don't have a head about us, if you will. We're not grounded enough to kind of talk it out in a logical, practical way. We're very explosive. We do have to kind of try to remain flexible because, again, Mars in this Libran energy, trying to weigh the scales, trying to do what is right and do what is fair. But Pluto in a retrograde in Capricorn is kind of ready to flip tables in order for us to realize that if we don't start taking action and actually doing something about our lives, that we're going to continue to stay in the same circumstances, the same patterns. Now, of course, this is really putting us in an intense mind frame in order to come up with a plan, a strategy on how it is that we're going to bust out of this particular circumstance and actually, create a little bit of a momentum towards futuristic goals. However, we're kind of all over the place right now. And because Venus is just about to clear her post retrograde shadow period and this Leo energy to move in the Virgo energy, our heart is all over the place. We don't have a true vision, a true, I'm going to say, plan, path, direction that we actually want to take. So this is going to be the battle of the inner realm, if you will, for the next couple of days. Be very cautiously aware that you're not acting on impulse, that you have a little bit more control over your, I'm going to say, tantrums or outbursts, if you will, because we are all being triggered and activated to bring the worst out of us right now as we move into this eclipse energy, because of course we have to sit in the darkness to truly appreciate the light. And this solar eclipse is in Libra energy, trying to get us to balance the scales. But of course we have to experience the extremes before we even know what balance is. So that is your cautionary note, your cautionary tale for this week. As we kind of move through all of these different energy shifts, we are going to be edgy. We're going to be agitated. We're going to be frustrated. We're going to want to take our power and control back in every single instance that we can. And as empowering as that sounds, many of us going to try and kind of manipulate other people as a source of power and control. And of course, we have to steer away from doing that, because that would be giving into the egoic narrative, the egoic goal of just, having power and control over everything. Side note, the key to this eclipse energy that we're about to move into is to surrender. So as you can see, two very extreme competing goals here. We have Mars and Pluto pushing us to kind of take action, to be intense, to stand in our power, to take control wherever it is that we can. Yet the karmic lesson here is to not do that, is to be fluid, is to be surrendering to what it is that the universe is about to throw our way. So that is that. Now, shortly thereafter, we're talking like, I'm going to say 13 minutes, if we want to be exact. That's when Venus is going to move into Virgo energy. And again, I'm going to encourage you to listen to the astro forecast that I've already put out for this particular event so that you can understand what this particular transit is going to do for us. But let me just say that this is definitely going to be a palpable change, a shift in the energies that you're definitely going to notice, especially where those heart activations are concerned. If you haven't listened to the ascension forecast for this week, I'm going to recommend you do so that you understand the physical symptoms that many of us will be experiencing when these energy shifts take place. The last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in Leo energy, getting into the boxing ring, fighting it out, squaring off with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion. He rules over our beliefs, our wisdom, our knowledge that we've accumulated from the tough love life lessons. And he is retrograde in Taurus energy right now, giving us a little bit of a time out to step back and really observe whether or not the goals that we came into this year with, especially the goals that we just started trying to pursue back in May, whether we're even passionate about them or not, whether we even care about them or not. So much has changed, especially within ourselves, that we may not be at the vibration and frequency that we once were at, where these goals, these visions, these dreams actually seemed exciting, actually seemed like it was a mission and a purpose for our soul to actually pursue. So we have this opportunity to step back now and really contemplate what our goals actually are. What do we want for the long term? We're taking a good look at our physical realm, our physical reality, because at one particular point in time, we prayed for the particular circumstances which we're currently living in, but we've outgrown them. And now we have to have a grow up, a glow up, a boss up within ourselves to realize where it is that, we've graduated from high school, but yet we're not ready to kind of leave high school yet, right? There's like this want, need, and desire to not want to grow up, to not want to do the hard things, to not want to be accountable and responsible for kind of putting ourselves in a position to be the newbie, to start from scratch, to learn different life lessons. So that's a whole jam all in itself. But with the moon getting into the boxing ring and squaring off with Jupiter, this is, again, the heart space, the real, raw, vulnerable part of our soul and our spirit in this Leo energy, knowing damn well that we've been building in emotional strength and dexterity in order to challenge ourselves, to bust out of the old and really break into the new. But here we have a hesitation. We have a resistance, if you will. Jupiter, who wants to really help us kind of grow in all kinds of different ways, is really saying to this, intense impulse to make changes and to make transformations in our outer realm, that guess what? You really haven't done the work that you need to do within yourself to raise yourself to the vibration, to the frequency, to the path, to direction where you can start taking actions in the outside world. So it's kind of like the moon in Leo wants us to do all of these things in our outer realm, and Jupiter is pumping the brakes, which is very odd for him because, again, he's pushing for growth and expansion in all that we do. And he's saying, okay, really? Like, are you really where you need to be within yourself to feel like you are well equipped and well prepared to just jump into just mixing things up and rearranging and restructuring your physical realm? Because what Jupiter wants us to do is take a step back and realize where it is that in the past, when we jumped into things on impulse or jumped in without a plan and a strategy, where they never succeeded, where we never reached our goals, where we never actually seen any kind of progress in the right direction because we failed to think about it, to plan about it, to strategize about it. And although it feels good to now have a little bit of clarity coming in on what it is that we want to take action upon and what it is that we need to do for ourselves to honor our heart space, there's still a plan and a strategy required so that we're not wasting time, not wasting energy, so that we have a clear path of intentions that we have to set for ourselves so that we actually stand a chance of bringing some of these goals, these visions, these dreams into manifestation.